Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of Just Cause 4. I played it on the Xbox One, it's also available on the PS4 and PC. So once again, you play as Rico. This time he is no longer with the agency, he is doing this job for himself. You are in a place called Solis, and you are there to investigate why your father was killed. You find out that there was a lot more to it. It just so happens that he happened to be working on a giant evil weather machine. The reality of it is, I haven't spoiled anything. If it sounds like spoilers, you're wrong, because there's not a lot of depth to this story. The extent of the depth of this is that when he discovers this, he ends up kicking off a revolution in Solis. Also, not a spoiler, because all of this is discovered and happens within the first 20 to 30 minutes of this game. The audio is, well, it's there. It's a thing that happens. The voiceover work is decent to okay. I never would say that it is good. It's at best good enough. As for the sound effects and whatnot, they work. They're not bad. They're not amazing either, though. And when it comes to the music, when you're in a vehicle and listen to the radio stations, honestly, none of the music does anything for me. I don't really like any of it. There are different radio stations you can listen to. There's just none that I enjoyed. There was a bit of music that would kick in when I was gliding with a wingsuit that I enjoyed, but you know, that was really the only time I got it going. As for the gameplay, it's a third-person open-world shooter. And the first thing I'm going to say about the open world is that it's very, very big, but not in a good way. There's a lot of wasted space in this game. There's a lot of terrain that can really only be traversed with your grappler and wingsuit and parachute. You can get around it with helicopters and jets and all that as well, but it's just there for no particular reason whatsoever. It's not like you can go into these mountains to avoid the enemy or anything like that, so it's really just a huge map for the sake of a huge map. It doesn't add a lot to the story. It honestly detracts from the game as an overall because you jump in a car and you have to spend so much time getting from point A to point B because you have to drive around 25 different mountains. As for the mission structure in Just Cause 4, it's not as good as previous Just Cause games because while you still have an objective when you go into a base, you no longer have the secondary objective, or in some cases in the previous games, I think it was a primary objective of blowing up basically anything that was red in the base. Red barrels, red generators, red towers, satellite dishes, anything that had a red marking, basically. Basically, now you go in, you complete the objective, and you don't really have to blow up any of that stuff if you don't want to, which is just kind of weird to me. Which that just kind of flies in the face of Just Cause in general, in my opinion. It's always been about blowing up as much as you can. Never on the same extent as some other games that used to exist and no longer exist, but that was always the point, was you'd go in, you'd see all the red items, and you'd blow them up. Which they've limited your ability to do, because they've gotten rid of C4 for no apparent reason, and they limit your weapon selection, and yeah, that just all sucks. All of those things that I just said suck. You also don't have your very own weapon. You have to collect weapons from enemies. You can call in weapons in airdrops, and it's bullshit. The reason I say that is because you call in an airdrop that drops an entire fucking Connex box and you get one gun. You can't load it up so that there's a new vehicle and a couple of guns, which would make sense because it's a fucking Connex box. They're huge. You can only ever have one item in a loadout for an airdrop, and it's obnoxious, quite frankly. You can get one gun or one vehicle. You cannot get a gun and a vehicle. You cannot get multiple guns. It sucks. Also, with a lot of the missions, you get saddled with an AI, and these are shit. Whether they're driving or you just have to escort them, they always end up fucking up and dragging the entire mission down. Also, this was something that I ran into on multiple missions, and it shit upon the entire mission. There is an enemy weapons installation. It's like a missile launcher that can A, lock onto you when you're nowhere near its visual range, which you don't know what that is, but I mean literally, I'm hiding somewhere that it should not be able to detect me. It does, and launches missiles at me. There was a mission where I needed to get an AI, which was being a complete idiot, into a vehicle, and every vehicle I got into was being destroyed by this magical rocket launcher, even though it couldn't see me. But to make that even better, said magical rocket launcher is fucking indestructible. Or at least as far as I can tell it is. I unloaded grenades, missiles, anything I could that should blow it the fuck up, and it would not be destroyed. So when I say that those things shit upon entire missions, they shit upon the entire mission. One thing that's always been unique to Just Cause is the Grappler, and while it's once again here, they made it so you can have a bunch of different customizable loadouts for your Grappler. I never ran into a single situation where I needed to actually customize my Grappler. Once you have the retractable add-on for the Grappler, you can lock one claw into one thing, another claw into another, they pull towards each other, and that's about all you need. While you can do the rocket ones where it puts a rocket booster onto something, it never really did anything all that necessary. And then there's the airlift add-on, which the only time that ever came in handy was to clear some debris so that the stupid AI could continue to drive on the practically open road. Also, to go along with the Grappler was a really quite obnoxious glitch that would occur. It wasn't constant, but it would happen often enough that it became very annoying. I would use the Grappler, I'd be done with it, I would have disconnected it, and it would continue to cause my controller to rumble. More like vibrate. It was a high buzz and it just wouldn't stop. It would continue and continue and continue. The only way to get it to stop would be to exit to the main menu or to die to kick off a loading screen. Otherwise, it would just keep going. It went for at least 5 minutes at one point, and I just had to exit to the main menu because it was just getting so annoying. Then there's the controls, which are, to say the least, very inconsistent. Sometimes the aiming or steering works very well, it's nice and precise, and other times it feels like the sensitivity has been cranked way the hell up and minor adjustments become impossible both while aiming and steering. It just does not work well. I also don't feel like the controls were very well mapped out for driving. While accelerate on most vehicles is the right trigger, which that makes perfect sense, on any vehicle that had a boost, a jump, or a gun, that was mapped onto the right bumper. If a vehicle had both a boost and a gun, or a jump and a gun, that would be mapped onto the left and right bumpers. But firing the gun and the boost were almost always on the right bumper, so it left you doing this whole thing. Whereas in my opinion, it would have made sense to have the gun be mapped to the left bumper, that way you could properly accelerate and fire it at the same time. Another thing that would have made perfect sense is map the boost in all situations to the X button. When you're driving, the X button doesn't serve any function, so putting the boost there would just make perfect sense because it makes for a more comfortable acceleration and using boost at the same time situation. It's just one of those things that didn't make any sense and it felt constantly foreign to me while I was playing the game. As for the graphics, it's bright and colorful and that's quite lovely. It just made me appreciate that we've moved away from the era of everything being gray or brown. But that being said, it doesn't look that good. It does not look as good as it should considering this is a AAA title on the current generation of consoles and late into the console generation, really. So why this game looks as shit as it does, I don't know. To wrap it up, you kind of have to wonder if this game was ever even play tested, but not only that, you also have to wonder how rushed it was because graphically that could have used a lot of polish, the controls, just everything felt lackluster. The more I played it, the more I hated playing it. To put it simply, this is absolutely a skip. I would never recommend this game. Honestly, if you want to play a better Just Cause game, I'd recommend playing Just Cause 3. If you want to hear my thoughts on Just Cause 3, I'll include a link to that in the description below. But once you have, you'll understand even better my thoughts on Just Cause 4 and yeah, that's saying something. Okay, so in the comments below, why don't you tell me what your favorite game is with destructible environments? And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. And if you like what I'm doing in general, share, subscribe. Have a good one.